Okay, gentlemen, it's 9 o'clock.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March 22nd meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing we have on our agenda are the minutes. Gentlemen, do we have any additions, corrections?
I don't.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes of the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners for Montezuma County for March 15th, 2022, as presented.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of Montezuma County Commissioners of the Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, March 15th, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next thing we have is planning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
This is pretty slow for
Yeah.
one item. I'm not sure I know how to deal with this.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
You would deal with it the same way as any other item before you, Chairman.
So, go ahead, Don.
Eric, would you want to come up? We have an exemption application from Greg Taylor. This is his son Eric, operating as his agent. So their property, as you see on the map, overlays Road T. So they are applying for an exemption for the triangle to the northwest being cut off by the county road to exempt that property from the subdivision regulations and create a separate individual parcel. The road impact fees have been paid for that. There's a permitted driveway accessing that property currently.
So the whole tract is part of the subdivision to the, I guess, to the south or east?
It's not a subdivision, it just exists and Road T bisected. So the only way to utilize both halves is, per state statute, is to create that as a separate parcel.
Would you like to add anything? I mean,
No, it's gonna be upgrading the water line apparently, so we try to get taps for each side.
okay, commissioners?
No, I have no question. I mean, there was exemption a long time ago for, these were created with a division by road, so.
Okay,
How long's this parcel been? Did it get cut off of something else? Or has it just been a parcel by itself all this time? When was it created? Do
Wouldn't
you
it
guys,
cut it off?
I'm not sure the exact time when the parcel was created. That section of Road T is, I mean, it's kind of like a narrower, less built version of the rest of Road T, but as far as I know, it's been there for a long time.
50 years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
At least?
yeah,
Or-
all those properties are there, but none of them are in the subdivision, north or south. So it's kind of just what created itself, and then the county adopted that road section through there over the years.
And that's that real narrow section of T Road, right? It's pretty narrow,
Yep.
like maybe 35 feet from fence line to fence line, and the road fits in between there?
Yep, and it gets a little bit narrower up the hill, around the corner, further to the north.
Okay.
Any problem?
Okay.
I would move we approve the exemption resolution submitted by Gregory Taylor, Agent Eric Taylor, POA, on property located at 25453 Road T, Dolores.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the exemption resolution submitted by Gregory Taylor, Agent Eric Taylor, POA, on property located at 25453 Road T, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 5.55 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go, sir.
All right, great. I think that's all we got, unless you got questions.
No. Be
Short, sweet, and out of here.
You bet.
Yeah,
Thanks.
short and sweet. Gosh, I like it. Thank you, guys. Okay, the next thing we have is our public comment session. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name, your address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time. And with that, the public comment session is open. No, because
Yeah.
people on YouTube can't hear you, and
Good morning, my name is George Tripp, and I live on 330 South Beach Street in Cortez. And I'm here today just to introduce myself. I'm on a campaigning for city council, and I'm doing an outreach type thing where I'm going around to businesses and people in town and groups that are, affiliated with Cortez, and I understand that, Montezuma County has got quite a bit of relationship with the city. We need to maintain that. There's a lot of services that are combined and that type of thing, and I just wanted to say, if I get on council, I'd like to keep that relationship promoted and keep everything going forward and try to get some growth going in our town. I know right now I've seen a lot of issues in the economic sustainability and growth, and I'd like to keep that promoted. So I just wanted to say hi to everybody.
Thank
If
you.
there's any questions.
okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mike Lynch, and I live at 21730 County Road S. I'm returning this week with more information with the help of United States Election Integrity Plan. I was able to find a list of voting equipment on the Secretary of State's website, which were used in Montezuma County elections. I then went to the manufacturer's websites and, using the serial numbers, was able to get a list of installed components for each one. And I've made copies for you, which I will leave for you this morning. How many of us were told that our election voting equipment was not connected to the internet? From the components list for each of the Dell units, the specs for the Samsung Gallery units, and a search of one chip manufacturer, I found the following. Of the 21 pieces of equipment, it looks like 16 of them have wireless capability. At least 8 and potentially 18 units or pieces of equipment have browser search capability. At least 4 units have chips installed that came from Chengdu, China, a common supplier for Bell. And according to the components list, it looks like those were shipped separately, not installed at the time of the manufacturer. If the election voting equipment in Montezuma County was not tied into the internet, then why is it necessary to have wireless capability installed? Why is it necessary to have internet browser and search capability installed? Why are we purchasing chips or modules made in China and installing them in our nation's election voting equipment? Near the end of the Mesa County Forensic Report number 2 that I delivered to you last week, there's a written discussion of the dangers presented by such practices and 2 presidential executive orders related to the matter. The information I'm providing this morning proves that there is at least one similarity between the Mesa County problems and Montezuma County, that it appears we and they both have equipment with wireless capability. Now, having the capability to access the internet is not proof perfect that it actually happened. Only the log files on the equipment would be able to settle that question. However, since the Colorado Secretary of State has implemented the trusted build in all counties of the state, the evidence needed to prove internet access has actually been erased in Montezuma County, as it was shown to be erased in Mesa County. Gentlemen, I have zero confidence in election voting equipment that can be accessed through the internet by anyone around the world, which was found to be the case in Mesa County, and I think is the case in our county. It was found that in Mesa County, it was possible to access votes and change them. I assume the same is true about our county's election voting equipment, and I don't see how we can continue to use such equipment with the evidence we have thus far.
You get a copy because it needs to get to Kim,
And
so we'll do that to her.
I delivered a copy to Kim's office this morning.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next. Okay. Seeing no others, we'll close the public comment session, and we will go straight to our special event liquor license. So the Ute Mountain Rodeo Roundup, come on down. Good morning. How are you guys?
Kind of leave you with an impromptu map.
And can we just make sure that mic is on?
And then introduce yourselves also. I mean, we all know you, but
I'm Cindy Green, treasurer for the Ute Mountain Rodeo Committee. Marty Spitzer, vice chairman.
I'm Lacey Murphy, secretary for the Ute Mountain Rodeo.
So we're here to get our liquor license approved again. Last year we had a concert and you let us have it till 11, and we're asking for that again. This year we're going to have local live music, probably starting about the time the rodeo ends, maybe a little earlier. Donnie Johnson's going to play on Thursday night. Vanishing Breed and Otis Sykes are going to play on Friday night, and Bradley Sitton's going to play on Saturday night.
In the beer tent, not.
Yeah, and I can show you, everything's going to be within that fence parameter.
so it's pretty much consistent with what you've done the last couple of years, right? All within that, the confines of the
So-
fenced area.
So you can see to the left there of the seating facilities, there's kind of a bleacher that's running east and west. So that's where the stage is going to be. And then the beer garden is going to be adjacent to that instead of, it'll be just switched. But again, everything's going to be within the fence And we haven't really ever had problems between the sheriff's department and us. We haven't really had any problems with anybody leaving with alcohol. That's the whole facility. Since we asked for the upper barn last year, we just thought we'd just keep a blanket. You know, just keep it like it was last year.
Okay.
We would like to have it start earlier. What'd you say?
We're gonna apply for 4 to 11
4
instead
to
of
11.
5:30.
So what do you have starting at 4? Or is it just because you're gonna have music?
And
just
we've
kinda-
got new vendors coming in too.
The crowd's starting to show up a lot earlier.
Okay.
And fill the stands to get filled there.
Because the-
Rodeo has to be within a 2-hour span.
Right.
I mean, that's just PRC.
And
So we're just trying to get people in there, get them seated, have fun, and have the vendors available for them. And so we
So-
usually start open gates at 5, we open at 4.
So this is just an hour earlier?
it makes it a little easier for the vendors to make, you know, it's hard, we're not a fair. We're not a 3-day event where you can wander around for 12 hours. So it's a little harder for the vendors to do well if we don't open up early. Because people come in, they want to go to rodeo and they want to go home. So if we open up early and stay open late, it gives the vendors a little bit more time to sell their goods as well.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
I don't, I mean, we upgraded this liquor license, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And I don't think we've had any issues out there at all. I mean, you know, it doesn't mean that we won't eventually
Right.
have somebody that's,
Right.
there's always that.
I know they work hard not
There's
to.
always
Yeah.
that one
Yeah, if
person
you
that,
ever come up against me or Cindy, you don't want to do it again. And we usually man the gates. But we do have, you know, the sheriff's department, and we pay for that. And we're well aware, we're probably, you know, that isn't our area of expertise, but we do know we're probably gonna have have to have more available.
We did just receive the new Montezuma County agreement, alcohol agreement with Fairgrounds today, so it'll be something, everything that's in there will be.
okay. All right, any other questions?
So the music, you're gonna have it in that location where you had, basically where you had your beer tents before?
Yeah, but,
And
and then the beer tent's gonna be running east and west instead of north and south.
So everything is gonna be on the north side of the stands?
Right. And within the fence.
Yeah.
We would love to have brought the podium down from the big building and set up, but it's huge and it would have to be outside the fence, and then we don't have any control when it's outside the fence.
Instead of a concert this year, the music is more so just so people have an area to socialize while everybody's getting out. It's not gonna be a 2-hour-long concert, basically. It's just gonna be some music playing in a beer tent while everybody's getting out of the area and then it'll shut down.
Yeah, so you may have an hour and a half, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing before the rodeo festivities start, because that starts promptly at 7.
And then it's over about 9, and then they never leave, everyone hangs around and stuff, 10. We're just gonna extend it another hour.
And we get a big early crowd. I mean, I think they like to see what goes on in the middle of the arenas. You know, they're loading chutes and rearranging the stock and.
the only reason I was asking is because when that thing gets over and the slack starts, that's all I was gonna about. Is that gonna interfere with your slack?
Thursday
Yeah,
morning.
all of
Because
our
it-
slack is gonna be run Thursday.
12 or 1 o'clock in the morning when it finally gets done,
Yeah,
it's late.
yeah.
But
It's-
that's all I was concerned about, was whether that was gonna interfere with what's going on in the arena.
Right, right.
Okay, that's all I
Yeah,
was concerned
we've
about.
struggled with slack, especially after COVID, and then we got 3 times as many contestants as we're used to, and Slack was such a big deal. I mean, it was midnight or 1 for
I know,
Slack.
I
So
have to stay
we're
there
gonna
and
run it
sign
all on
out.
Thursday.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that typically is done by midnight anyway, but this is not gonna run
No,
through that time frame anyway, because if it's from 4 to 11, it's already shut off before the Slack is done.
Yeah.
And typically, if it's done by midnight, it's an hour before everybody wraps it up. I haven't heard any problems, and I know
No.
that we upgraded that 3 years ago when I first came here, so can't.
Dates, what are the dates?
What are the dates?
9, 10, and 11, up through.
Okay,
and we, just for your information, we do have a renowned new stock contractor coming in with animals that have scored really high at NFR, both with bulls and his horses, so we're kind
Oh,
of
good.
excited about that. We hope to get the Wright brothers over from Utah. They bring a circuit with them, and that's in some of the big boys' circuits, so we hope to get, for sure, the Wright brothers here.
You bet.
You got any problems?
No.
Okay. I move to approve the special event liquor license for the Ute Mountain Rodeo on June 9th, 10th, and 11th from 4 to 11.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the special event liquor license for the Ute Mountain Roundup Rodeo for June 9th, 10th, and 11th from the time frame from 4 PM to 11 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And before, I know I'm gonna get asked, but who's in charge of the parade this year? Do you know?
We don't, yeah.
I know you don't do it, but I thought you might know, because
No,
people are gonna
It changes
ask.
every year because it's such a fun thing to do.
I detected some sarcasm in that.
Nobody wants to do.
Nobody's jumped at the chance.
Okay,
Has our planning director ever done it for you?
Oh, there you go.
You can talk to him afterwards.
And Shaq, can I get a letter from you for the state liquor license?
Sure, I'll get that over to you.
All right, thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come see the rodeo.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
We'll be there.
Let me make copies for Lynn, and then you can get them back.
And I can scan and email them over to you too.
Okay, if you'll do that, you can just have them back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, next up, we have public service, and we have social services. Lori and Luann. Good morning, ladies.
Thank you.
Good morning, sunshine.
Okay, gentlemen, do you want to take care of the record of proceedings and the financials first before we get going?
Yes, I would move that we approve the record of proceedings and the financials for the Montezuma County Social Services, and the proceedings were held on Tuesday, February 22nd, 2002.
Second.
Okay, it's been
And,
moved.
those financials are in the amount of $1,852,175.37.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the record of proceedings for the Social Services Department for February, and also the financials for the Social Services Department for February in the amount of $1,852,175.37. Any questions, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 There's an extra memorandum of understanding that Gina was given yesterday, and she wanted me to present it today. It does not have to be signed today, but it's for us to continue doing having the Broward County do the referrals for child welfare and adult protection. Just continuing it on.
And since at least one commissioner wasn't here when that was approved, and it may actually have been approved prior to Commissioner Lindsay,
It was.
do you want to give a brief overview of what that is and why we participate that way?
Broward County offers this service to all of the counties in the state, and they provide, it's a hotline basically for child welfare and referrals and for adult protection referrals. And so when they call into our department, they call our main line, there's a specific, it says if you would like to make a referral, please press 1. If you hit that, it takes them directly to that, what do you call that? That
Menu?
system. It's directly to the referral system, to the people that take the referrals. And they take down all of the information. When they get all the information, and if it's for us, it comes back to our county. The reason why we decided to go that route was because we get so many referrals. You know, sometimes there's not someone there at the phone to take them. This way, there's always someone available to take the referral, get it, set up, get it sent back to the county, where the county can act on it. Same with the adult protection referrals. It takes right now we are kind of shorthanded on our adult protection caseworkers, and so basically only one caseworker is able to take the referrals, and so this is going to help her out immensely if they can. They have not been doing the adult protection in the past, but we're going to start that now because she can't do all of it, and so right now this will really help her out with getting those referrals set up, the information taken, and then they'll get back to her where she can work on them. So it's helped immensely with getting the referrals, taking the information down, and having us be able to work them in a timely manner.
I have a question, and I certainly don't need an answer right now, but my question would be, with outsourcing the referrals, it sounds like it may be more efficient from staff. Have we had any feedback from the public using the referral service as to whether they feel it becomes more efficient for them, or if they feel like it's more red tapes and press 1 for English, and just taking a long time to get results and make the referral that they want to use? And I don't need an answer right now. I'm just curious what the public perspective is for the system.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but we can find out.
Thank you.
So also in the fairness for Commissioner Copenhaver, if we can put this on for next week under unfinished business.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And do you expect that Gina will be back next week?
Yeah, she'll be back next.
Okay.
So that'll give you a chance to actually read through this MOU, ask Gina any questions, and then also Commissioner Wendy Andrade Buxton?
Buxton and
Buxton
Dorado.
Andrade is also a good resource from Prowers County that you could talk to. And I think I introduced you to her out there in Washington. And then if a week, that just gives Commissioner Copenhaver a little more time to kind of look through this in fairness to him, something that he hasn't seen before.
Yeah, that's fine. And she did not expect it to be today at all, so.
Okay.
And if Buxton and Dorado is too hard to remember, her first name is Wendy.
I struggle with it all the time. Okay,
Righty.
that's it? All right, well, when Gina gets back, would you please have her reach out to Commissioner Copenhaver and then give him the opportunity to get, digest this a little bit longer, and then we'll put it under unfinished business for next week. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Next Next, we have our VSO Sarah Kuhn.
Not Susan, but Sarah.
Sarah.
I did that last week.
It's all good, I'm still changing my.
How are you all today?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Good morning, Miss Sarah.
Good morning, Shaq. Well, a pretty busy month for us. February typically is, which is really good. First up there is our Colorado State Report. We had 442 telephone calls, 145 appointments in office, one home visit, serving 588 people in February. February 2022, our total expenditures were $8,661.60. We were able to get Frank signed up for national certification training in June, so that's part of our training budget. We have spring training coming up next week. We'll be closed for 2 days for that. And then in the fall, we'll have another training as well. So doing our regular training, it's really good that we're getting Frank trained. It's very important that he get trained. That way we have a seamless office. If I'm gone, he can pick up where I left off, or, you know, he can answer any questions that I easily could as well. So our office activities, February 2021, we had 147. And then February of 2022, we had 145. That's a decrease of 3 people. So we're pretty well on track as last year. Assisted 588. New clients were 8, bringing our total year-to-date to 16. One home visit, and we had 13 claims filed for February. And of course, our favorite part, the indirect income to the county. We had 4 favorable decisions and 2 unfavorable decisions. The new monthly amount for February was $6,136.87, with an annual total of just the month of February, $73,642.44. Retro payments for the month of February was $50,273.32. That we had a couple of 100% wins in that as well. So that was a really good month there.
So did they give us a reason for the unfavorable? And you may not be able to answer that question here in public, but is it
Yes,
just because they are disputing it and they don't want to deal with it, or?
Well, you have to have 3 things to get a decision with the VA. You have to have the in-service injury, you have to have a current diagnosis, and you have to have a connection. When you get an unfavorable condition, one of those 3 things is not there. Oftentimes, it comes down to a current diagnosis, or they haven't received treatment for many years, or simply a doctor says, no, your current diagnosis is not related to your in-service injury. So there's a few factors that go into play when they give a decision. And that's where education with the veterans is extremely important. We're trying really hard to reach out and make sure, and the state is doing it as well, to the branches. They all have transition centers now. So when a veteran comes out, or a military personnel come out of the military, they meet with a veteran transition counselor to explain the disability process, what they need to file, the requirements and stuff like that. Oftentimes veterans don't know what they need, and they get an unfavorable decision because they're just going uneducated.
Do they have the ability to reapply?
Yes. Yeah. There's 3 different tracks that they can use. They can use a simple appeal process. It's just a review process. They take in new evidence with it. They have a track where they don't take in new evidence and it's just a review. And then they have the traditional appeal. Traditional appeal can take up to 6-7 years, depending on the claim.
And is it fair to say, Sarah, that oftentimes by the time the case comes to your office, they've already gone halfway through the process and potentially missed something, and then you guys are trying to pick up the pieces afterwards?
Yes, we have probably 3/4 of our veterans have had previous claims that were denied, and we're trying to help them with that process of reapplying and getting all those pieces into place.
So I'd just like to say to all of our YouTube audience, and if it applies to anyone in here, see our VSO early and often.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, please, I mean, anybody out there, you folks here, even if you know of a veteran that isn't in the system, get them down here, or if they've been denied, have them go down and see these folks. They're real good at doing this.
That's all I have right now.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner? Okay. All right, thank you, Sarah.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Sarah.
Appreciate it.
You too.
Jonathan, Senior Services. I saw you walk in the room. You're
Good
great.
morning.
You're
Not a whole
good.
lot to talk about. I did talk with Karen Sheik for the potential teachers' appreciation day
Mhm.
as the annex for a backup, so I calendared her in on that, so that's taken care of. If there's any questions on that, just wanted to know that that's done. The grant, Shaq, that you
No,
had
let me,
sent.
I think, people think that, and we say this all the time, is they come to the commissioners
Yes.
without going to the department heads, where we don't know what the schedule, we don't know anything about that. So it's redirecting them back to where they need to go
Yeah.
to actually find out, one, is the facility even available, or what you can or cannot do. We
Sure.
can't answer those questions that,
And I understand
arise
that, just to
coming
let
to
you
us.
know. Yeah, just to let you know. And it's an odd request because we really don't, in a sense, save it for people, where it's a Plan B. This is a backup
Correct.
kind of a thing. So we typically don't do that, but it's a Friday. There's nothing on there. I don't anticipate anything. There's an event in the morning through 4-H, I think, is already there. So I didn't anticipate seeing anything there. So we can put them in as a backup without a concern, without going through the whole paperwork process. So, and I do understand that there's always that discrepancy, or that going to the commissioners, getting the fees waived. We hear it as much as you guys and how to go about it, and it's just what it is, So anyways, I just wanted to let you know here rather than through an email that there's a Plan B, should the weather turn, unfavorable, which I don't see happening. Shaq, you had sent a grant a while back, and the thought was to work with the new grant writer. I don't think we weren't able to get it accomplished. I probably should have taken the grant on myself when you first sent it, and I thought about it, but it was a big one. I am gonna go probably for that direct spending, and I'll be sending you an email just for a letter of support, whether it's the commissioners or you or something, but and then depending, I know they say they can take multiple requests, but I would love a direct spending type of funding rather than a grant situation. The federal grant was gonna be a tough one. It was highly competitive. They were only giving out 6 across the country. And with time and everything, I mean, honestly, it's something I would have had to have jumped on, and I didn't. I anticipated the new grant writer and me being able to get something accomplished, but there was a federal grant that we potentially had. It was a 3-year continuous kind of a funding situation, just didn't work out. So that's an update on that. I don't really have a whole lot. If you guys wanted to talk or have any questions more on the incident from 2 Fridays ago, any questions or thoughts, I think we're done with it. We feel, it's resolved, and it is what it is. So I appreciate all the commissioners' concerns or questions and coming by to Commissioner Lindsay on that. So that's that for me. Nothing really as far as, we're doing well. We had a nice St. Patrick's Day corned beef and cabbage dinner, and then, of course, the Queenie over there had her event, and they had a big event as well. But we had a nice St. Patrick's Day dinner I mean, it was excellent. Our new site coordinator is doing well. Our numbers are already starting to tick up. We've added a new activity. So I think we're on path to where we want to be. So if there's no thoughts or questions from anyone.
A couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner.
That federal 202 housing for seniors, did you follow that out?
I did not, but I will, I promise this
Okay.
week. I will get right on it.
And then I was asked, are there any plans for any senior trips, or anything? They used to do that a number of years back.
Do you think you could install a few floor obstacles or?
So,
I mean, I used to take day trips or,
so
Oh, I got the wrong impression. I'm sorry. I apologize.
just get the
ignore
speed
it.
bumps in there. Okay, it's just right over the top shot. So we did do I'm totally stumped right now. We did do a fall Telluride trip, color trip.
Okay.
We did do that. So one of the thoughts on that is, early on, they actually traveled.
Yeah.
I still don't know how they did that,
don't know
but
either.
they traveled not just like locally trips, they traveled to different parts of the country, I think even South America, down to Cancun possibly. So I think they did some different stuff on bigger trips. That's been brought to me multiple times, pre-COVID, of course. I honestly don't know how I can arrange that where I can just take off to Greece for a week or 2 weeks. So I still have not figured out how that was done. But I will say, so a couple things is, in particular now, I think we have a real solid person over there for our site, for the activities. Field trips being one of those kind of activities. At the same time, I think, the COVID thing, when we did our fall trip, there was still a little bit of uncertainty, but we felt safe. It was before the whole Omicron, the numbers ticked up locally as well. So I think, yes, to answer the question, yes, we'll get that back going, whether it's to the museum or the Four Seasons, nursery, which we have done in the past. Some of those, yes, those will come back. I was approached by a tour group out of Durango. It's called Taylor Tours, and she runs her own agency for trips. I welcomed her in and welcomed her to come speak to the seniors, provide her information about setting up trips for those who can travel more, whether it's, she had a trip to Holland, Michigan for the Tulip Festival, those sorts of things, and even possibly bigger trips. But for that to really work, that person really has to be around our seniors. And so basically what happened is she brought us a bunch of materials. I promoted it in the newsletter. I did mention it to our seniors. We actually pushed it kind of hard. But unless that person comes and gets to know our people and work with them, and then at the same time, we did have issues with the whole COVID once again, it just didn't go anywhere. It just didn't. First of all, you have to find the seniors who are financially capable to do that kind of a thing. So I would love that to kind of happen for those who can and do want to do more, bigger types of travel. It just, we're just not there. We attempted it, it didn't happen. As far as the local stuff, absolutely. We'll get back on board with that.
Okay.
And I think that's probably more what you were alluding to, is more
Well,
just the local stuff.
No, they went.
They went.
I mean, different parts of the country and they really,
Different parts of the world.
yeah. And Sue Fletcher might know.
Well, she still hasn't answered me how she accomplished that. I don't.
Oh, okay.
It was in the early days of
Yeah.
it, and, yeah, they traveled quite a bit.
They'd bring them to a commissioners meeting, thanks a lot, Yahoo. And
I don't
They
I
had a
don't have the
great time.
budget for that, or I don't know how it was arranged, but they did do a lot of that travel. I'm still stumped. I just don't see how I could take off, and, I mean, I wouldn't have opposed to it.
Right.
I guess I could work from the beach somewhere. But they did do a lot of that. So we sort of attempted through this agency out of Durango. It just didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
A little bit of COVID, a little bit of, they need to come in, it would have to be someone local, whether it was me or someone else to do that. And I could not figure out how that would work. Yeah.
We'll do some more checking, see if
Yeah.
we can't figure this out.
And if the county, wants to throw a travel budget, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Well,
Yeah,
I
don't see that, I don't foresee that
think that's
either,
gonna
but
happen.
just,
Well, they just arranged these, trips and away they, people that could
Yes.
afford it, away they went.
yes, I do know that.
and it was kind of a group tour or
I
something.
think with the inflation rates that we're looking at today, it might be far-fetched to.
Yeah. And I do think it was different then because of how travel has changed so much. And it was
Right.
in the earlier days of the program. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I do think more local trips are reasonable. I think
Yes.
it's fine to set up like, I don't know, a 3-hour tour.
Absolutely.
A 3-hour tour.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get back to the more local stuff. That's,
Sure.
yeah, absolutely, so.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Commissioner.
very good, thanks.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yep. And then we had somebody sneak in on us today, Mr. Felson. And Emily.
A little nervous with the county manager comedy session this morning.
Yeah, it's,
Gilligan.
Anything I say might get thrown. Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
So I'm going to start out CSU Extension here in Montezuma County. We're really excited for this upcoming Four States Ag Expo that will be running starting Friday morning through Sunday out at the Montezuma County Fairgrounds. On Friday, Emily and myself, we will be presenting first with a little bit of drought advisor and drought advisor planning that we've shared with the county through a variety of different webinars that we've completed now in the month of February and into March. And I'll let Emily talk a little bit about her specific presentation at the Ag Expo.
Hi, I'm Emily Lockard, and I'm going to be speaking about predicting forage and different tools that you can use to predict that. So whether that's looking at different weather patterns, or then there's now some satellite data that is available and a little bit more user-friendly than it used to be. And so you can combine that with like satellite forage production, historic forage production data with soils information to get some estimates of like, okay, what if it's 50% of normal, 75% of normal, 150% of normal? So that is what I'm going to be discussing, just to help folks with being able to estimate, okay, what is forage production this year, and then what are some tools for grazing planning related to that.
Perfect. And then Saturday, myself and Arlena Yazzie, we did a great comment training, changing our mental and emotional trajectory, training with the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, thanks to Chuck McAfee, who invited us out to that on Sunday, and we'll be doing a follow-up mental health training at the Ag Expo on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 in the upstairs room. And then CSU Extension will have a booth there all weekend. We'll be assisting with the Montezuma School to Farm program, supporting the CAF program that will be for the youth during that end. So that's been a great collaboration work on to that end. Next, I'd like to talk about sort of, and Emily can talk more on it as well too, of just our ongoing relationship and partnership with Pueblo Community College. And so we're really looking at that career pathways for a local workforce and working with their ag program that Emily's very much a part of creating that concurrent enrollment to get people from a AS degree to a BS degree through our higher education institutions. Also, with that, we're continuing to develop co-marketing partnerships of different certificate-based programs that people can access throughout Montezuma County. So you want to talk on one of them that's been a big success, and that's people want it.
Yeah, because I have a question. So working with PCC, you can get an AS degree here, then do you have to go to CSU to get the BS?
Well,
Or how does that?
Well, what we're trying to do is you don't have to leave the county. It would be here remotely.
So you can still get the BS here?
Yes.
Through PCC?
Yeah, PCC, then into CSU. And that's the ag program we're gonna start with, because that's kind of our neighborhood. However, that might be able to, as collaborative campuses are being established all across Colorado. One example is in Arapahoe County, where they have that connection with Arapahoe Community College into CSU, and it's everything from accounting to nursing, all of those type of degrees, and how we bring that down here to the southwest to be a potential for prospective students. And like I said, not just in agriculture, but with that, is it gonna be degree programs? Yeah, that's one pathway. But is it upskilling certificate-based programs that you don't have to get a degree in, but just need those skills to do that? That would be the other avenue.
So would those certifications go to the AS degree? Or-
Possibly, it's
Because
all,
that's a key. If the certifications don't align with an AS degree, then it doesn't really help them to move to the BS. I mean, correct? I mean, there's,
a little bit, yeah, there's some employers out there that are saying, hey, what is an AS, what's a BS? I just want you, I know that you have that certificate to do this
correct, but if
job
the
skill.
certification applies to the AS, it
Exactly.
makes it better for the,
So what we're
the
looking at is
recipient.
all of these, hey, if you got these 4, say, certificate training-based programs, that would equivalate to credits that would get you the AS.
correct, and that's what
So
I'm
it's
talking
a
about.
little bit, it's not as clean as you think. However, that's what we're working on, to make sure that then we have the authority through our higher education institutions to check off on that and say, yeah, you've done those 4 programs, that's equivalent to those credits, there's your AS right in there.
And then our kids wouldn't necessarily have to leave at all. That's, That's a
You're
good-
hitting it, Jim, in
that's a
the
good
sense that
deal.
we understand the brain drain that happens in rural America, particularly in our area as well, too. And if we can provide accessible higher education and training programs here locally, that helps our community. And that keeps money in our community and the ability for people to stay here and thrive here.
I can speak a little bit on the ag program that they're just starting now. So that was first offered last semester, and so I taught Introduction to Ag Business and Animal Science in that. And then this semester, pushed back a little bit, and I'm only teaching Animal Science. Spring break right now, so I'm happy about that for everyone. But they are working on certificates. So it's like a collection of, say, 3 classes that then would get you a certificate, and then they're working on their certification within that program to then work towards an AS degree. But because it's a new program, then that's not set in place yet. But that is definitely something that they're working on with that program, and then working on that to, be able to be transferred to a BS. Part of it is getting instructors who can be certified in those areas. So you have to have a master's in that, topic. So say they want to offer soil science, and we have someone who could teach that. Well, then we also need a chemistry teacher, because then that is a prerequisite. So that's Heather Hauk's, job to figure out those dots, which I'm sure we could invite her to speak more about that program with you all, because it's just starting. They're offering even more classes. She has like a drone program, so it's everything from animals, plants, to then getting into that technology. And then another thing that I'm working on with her, as well as Bob Bragg, are these kind of like skills-based trainings that aren't a certificate. And this has been, feedback from the community of like, I'm a farmer, I want to learn how to weld, but I don't want to take a class, like a huge long class. And so we put together with the welding instructor at PCC a 4-week, 4-session course, and it filled up within 24 hours.
oh, good.
And we're trying to make it affordable, so it's only $50. We didn't want it to break the bank. We wanted it to be accessible for folks. And I was blown away by that response, but I feel like we're hitting something that people really, really want and could use. So we already have 13 people on that wait list for that class. As well as with Bob and Heather, who are just starting out, we're like, okay, what days do people want to take these classes? How long do they want them to be? What are the topics they're interested in? So I just created a little survey in a platform that I have through CSU, emailed it out, people shared it on Facebook, and so now I have like 59, responses. People said how interested they are in like irrigation, soils, animal nutrition, artificial insemination, and then I have a spot then where I said, what else are you interested in? So people could give me that feedback. So that was extremely helpful to get that feedback from folks, because they're like, we would like classes that are 2 to 3 hours long and meet more times instead of like an all-day Saturday class. So trying to respond to that feedback that we've gotten that way, but that was really handy. And so we're continuing to think of those like skills-based trainings that we can offer. Thinking of tractor safety maintenance is something that has been done before. So wanting to offer that probably in the winter time. I think Greg mentioned last time. So we want to do an artificial insemination course. So we are putting together those logistics. But I've had ranchers come up to me and like, here's my card. Let me know when you're offering that. I really want that. Which that will also be limited by the number of people that we can have, just for the number of animals that we can get to be able to practice that. So hopefully we can try these things, see how they go, and then continue to offer these courses to build the skills within our community, so people don't have to go to Texas to take artificial insemination and spend $700. That we could offer it for hopefully a lower cost here, reduce that travel time, give people the skills that they need to be or want to be successful here locally. So.
Very good. I think that's, specifically with travel nowadays, if you can get something locally and provide a class, it's way more beneficial than sending them all to wherever, Texas, wherever they have to go.
Absolutely. And we'll continue to follow up. I know with our economic development team, working very closely with Region 9 and Heather Otter has been great, that we continue to do that and identify where our employee and industry needs for that educational training. And is that through remote workforce as well too, that ability for people to be trained to live in our communities as well too, could be good for our overall economic outlook here in Montezuma County. So we'll continue to update you on that partnership that we think has just been really great to work with. So spring's here.
Before you go on, there used to be an ag rescue class for fire departments, and it was tied in at CSU for their safety classes at one time. This is a long time ago. And I didn't know if anybody had done one of those recently or not.
I think yeah.
Probably not. I wonder if that's through the Eden Network.
I don't know.
But yeah, that's something else that on this program highlighted there has kind of gotten the ball rolling of talking about emergency response, especially with fire or any type of other emergency.
This was basically ag equipment, getting untangled from PTO shafts, balers, the works like that.
Well, and maybe with like a tractor, safety course, something covered with that. But I mean, that's really important, and that happened a few years ago. Obviously, farming is an extremely dangerous occupation. So I think with the agribility course as well, you can speak to that.
Yeah, we hosted an agribility class 3 weeks ago out at PCC, and that's more catered towards disabled farmers and ranchers, but looks on those, what are those adaptive things that you could add to your farming equipment and be aware of to prevent injuries and falls and all of that. Yeah, there's a program. Yeah, I was researching on that, and I think that does go along with probably potential programs that we can do, that there's a need out there. Yeah, that people just want, like Emily mentioned, you're not getting a degree in this,
right?
But you're having a once a year check-in and doing this class just for your general safety.
Yeah, like four-wheeler safety.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. This is what I like. Good discussion. That's what we're here for. So spring is here, second day of it. And people are excited, just like Emily mentioned with the ag welding. Our native plant masters program, not as close as the ag welding that sold out in a weekend. Ours was more about a week, but we have a waiting list of 5 other people. We'll be doing Ann Street, Jocelyn, and David Faulkner, our experts, sort of say, will be leading classes at Canyon of the Ancients and Hawkins Preserve, just for the interest of people coming into our area and wanting to learn about their native landscape. So that's really exciting. It was a great program last year, and we'll look to expand on that this year. As Shaq has brought up, we're going to be collaborating with the Good Sam Food Pantry and Montezuma School to Farm program for a seed share that'll be offered. I'll be doing some educational stuff there, but people to have locally adapted seeds or a variety of seeds to start, that you can get started now. I mean, there's still the cool nights and all of that. I'm not going to tell anybody to start planting just yet, unless it's undercover and your ability to do that. But it's really exciting to see the community be really excited about gardening-based programs. I want to thank the commissioners and the county again for the ability to support the Cortez Farmers Market with the use of the space out here. I'll get with you, Shaq, about they want to do some preliminary jotting out of their area. We might need to put a call out that parking space is cleared for a coming up weekend.
Yeah, could you design a flyer for that for me to send to the department heads?
And then I was gonna say, and then I'll design a flyer that hopefully we remember every Friday, June through October to send out, but having a flyer for their department.
Well, we could just set email to send out every Thursday
I like that.
automatically.
Automatic.
Don't forget,
Don't forget.
tomorrow's Friday.
I woke, or not woke, you're usually up real early, but 5:30.
You know,
6
after
o'clock
the
in
last
morning.
election cycle, I'm feeling pretty woke.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. But, yeah, no, it's a great space for our farmers market. We'll be hosting our annual spring meeting April 2nd in the annex, just to get everyone lined up with the farmers market for this year. I did want to then talk just a little bit, our 4-H youth development. They'll be looking forward to a San Juan Basin leadership camp that will be happening that weekend of August 9th. I think it's 8th and 9th, Friday into Saturday. So they're excited for those that'll bring together Archuleta, La Plata, and San Juan County, New Mexico, and doing a ropes course and all of that for leadership opportunities. I know Andrea is watching, and myself, but Andrea mostly because she is very much involved in the poultry world. At the HPA1 avian flu virus that is affecting majority right now in the Midwest and northeastern coast of large poultry facilities and backyard chicken production. And so we're very, could be very nervous that it jumps over here to Colorado. Definitely spread through waterfowl and geese, just traveling during this time. So definitely keeping a very close eye on that so that we are, that we can be prepared and educate everyone from backyard chicken producers to larger producers, how to be as safety and clean as possible to avoid this. But some of the stories out of, Wisconsin or Kansas of shutting down, huge facilities is a concern, and we'll continue to watch that to educate people on. And then
Greg, are you guys recommending, and maybe this is an Andrea question, that people mask their chickens?
I used that joke already, Jack.
Well, they just
said,
need
are we just
rose-colored
doing-
glasses.
Is there gonna be a mandate on masking the chickens? There's no mandates right now.
You
that we're
realize,
gonna have on the masking of them, but they
Don't
will be
bite this.
required to use hand sand in and out of the coop.
so let me just tell you, Greg, you just keep going forward and you just disregard it, so just move forward.
We are on YouTube, yeah, I should.
They are recommending like biosecurity of keeping your backyard flock separate from wild birds. Then things like if you wear your boots on someone else's farm, like don't bring them back, clean them. So just have like, clothes and shoes that you wear at your place so you're not spreading it. There's no vaccine available for it though either, so.
Okay.
We're not gonna
Fourth
issue a
booster,
chicken
you're gonna
mandate
need
this
to
week.
Yeah, any other questions?
Yeah. And then just real quickly before I hand it over to Emily, we had a fair board meeting last night. I will get with Shaq regarding them getting on the agenda for a liquor license for the county fair. But that's all running smoothly. I have to get with Justin out at the fairgrounds. I'm not sure what funds went to fairgrounds, if they got some funds as well too. So I think people are just want to get together and talk about some of that COVID money that was delivered to both the fair and fairgrounds and how we spend that best accordingly. But it looks like the Friday, I believe it's the 29th of July. I'm not a huge country music fan, but Tim Montana and Mize, country artists, will be coming for the concert. And
So you're not a Broncos fan and you're not a country music
yeah,
fan?
yeah.
We need to
We did get a
renegotiate this
Bronco
contract.
in Buffalo, though. Good old Von Miller's making
Yeah.
his way to a good place. But
Remind Andrea that I did not get her drawing from our meeting that we had at the fair
At the fair.
last week,
okay.
for that wash.
Yeah, because that would be great. We really do need to follow up with this money that's there, and just hearing what the costs continue to be for bathrooms, bringing in porta potties and all of that, of maybe some decisions out at the fairgrounds that could be used with this money that would be long-term, that would probably save budgets onto that. But that's fair and fairgrounds.
Correct.
And we all need to just sit down and talk on what's the best use of funds for that facility and our events out there.
Okay.
And then, so this is almost the end of 3 months. We're almost on our 90 days with our new employee, Emily Lockard, with our agriculture and livestock extension agent. And I really believe she really has been hitting the ground running and doing some amazing work. So she's going to talk a little bit more about kind of the one event, the fire, or the forest management fire that I think we all know we're living with the reality of our conditions, and some other programs that looking into.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. With this program, I've been working a lot with the Mancos Conservation District and High Desert Conservation District, and so they have a new manager who works half-time for Mancos and half-time for High Desert. So that's made it really easy for me to collaborate with both districts. But the feedback that they had was from landowners who have done fire mitigation work and then maybe didn't know what type of restoration was needed following that. And so we just gathered a lot of different folks in the area who, like Wildlife Adapted Partnership is able to help people to, with how they should do that fire mitigation work around their homes. And then when they have funding, which I have heard that they do now, then they can do cost share and kind of focus on like a HOA basis to do group efforts related to fire safety. So we have someone coming over to talk about that restoration from the Colorado State Forest Service, some other folks, then also talk to Jim Spratlin, and then we twisted, he can't be there for this event, so we twisted James Dietrich's arm. He's not on the flyer here, but he's gonna come talk about like what the county can and can't do, and really just emphasizing to be prepared to do this work beforehand. And CSU has some materials that they just put out that it's a little brochure of like what to do after a fire. And so we can kind of insert in our local contact information into that. And so we've been working on that, but then also talking to Jim Spratlin about having, what do you do before? So how do you prep for this? And that, that educational materials is kind of what Extension can bring to the table in supporting of, emergency services, efforts. So that is something that we're going to work on, kind of get Jim's approval, like, yeah, that looks good to me. Here are good contacts for how folks can prepare for any type of an emergency, but then especially, preparing for fires. So that is one thing that I'm working on with the Conservation District. Another, there's a new soil health program through the Department of Ag. And so it's a pilot program, and they've had different conservation districts throughout the state have applied to be a part of this program. And they have like 7 producers that then they get funds based on an acreage basis. Of course, it's kind of complicated. And then if the conservation district doesn't maybe have the technical expertise, they've identified people with CSU or different entities that can be technical assistance. And so that's a role that I can play with the district. We've gone on 1 site visit so far, just visiting with landowners for that program, talking about what methods they can do on their place for soil health. And also talking with them about some irrigation workshops. So some things have been done in the past, kind of been on hold because of the pandemic. So working with NRCS, Fozzie's Farm, and then also the conservation districts on hopefully doing some irrigation workshops, just talking about and there's a spectrum of need in the county of, I just bought this place and I don't know anything about irrigation, to I've been farming for years, but how do I improve my efficiencies, things like that. So trying to meet those different needs, maybe with some different workshops. I also talked with Deputy Hune, who he is planning on doing a water law meeting, which would, I'm sure, as in all years, will be very, very informative and helpful for him. So I look forward to collaborating with a lot of people, not duplicating, that we're all working together. And so that is a little bit what we're doing. I also worked with Rachel Landis from the Good Food Collective in Beth Lachelle at the Old Fort, and some other folks. For this, there's a CSU initiative, there's this food summit where they're trying to get regional folks interested in agriculture to talk about the needs within their unique communities and then report back at this statewide meeting, which of course is in Denver in November. And so we organized by inviting a wide spectrum of agricultural producers, but then also folks in retail, grocery, restaurants, advocacy organizations, to have a discussion about what are the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses in agriculture in southwestern Colorado. And so that was the Southwest Colorado Food and Ag Summit. We had it at the Kennebec on March 12th. We had really positive feedback from that. And I think one of the main things was, okay, this was great to have this one meeting to get out of our silos. There's not very many folks in agriculture. How can we all work together to promote agriculture in southwestern Colorado, but not make that the only meeting? And so trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we follow up on what we learned from those discussions to continue promoting agriculture in southwestern Colorado. I guess something else to be on folks' radar are there are new ag labor laws. So SB 87, I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, is passed last year, and it has changed overtime rules in agriculture and different requirements. It's very complicated, and so anyway, just know that.
Emily,
Yes.
would it be possible to put out a Cliff Notes version of that we could distribute?
Yeah, and so actually, I know different organizations, so specifically like Rocky Mountain Farmer Union, they have this fact sheet about that. This is a graph talking about the overtime regulations, which is phased in, and it is complicated. So yeah, I could maybe work with the county attorney. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me in trouble with the law, but just for educational purposes, because there are things that are effective immediately, and then there's things that are going to phase in 23, And then there's exemptions if they're family members, so.
I think
yeah.
the biggest thing for us are the exemptions for family members, because when this bill was introduced, one of the biggest discussions, it doesn't affect family members. It's just basically if you have a hired hand, so then they're gonna have to follow the,
Yeah,
almost the same, well, basically the same laws that anybody else has to, if they're a hired person with overtime and, regular working hours. There are some exemptions, but for us around here, I think most of our local, people are typically all family members. There's not, I don't think it's affected us. It will eventually, but I'm more interested, did you actually do a SWOT analysis to, you talked about it briefly, but what's the threat? What's the biggest threat? Because, we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, but, when you talk about opportunities and threats, what's the biggest threat that we're dealing with? Because if you can't identify the threat, how are we gonna get,
sure.
how do you have to have all four of those components to tie a SWOT analysis together?
We didn't do a true SWOT analysis, but I think from those discussions, so some of those threats from that meeting were, policies, regulations, and economic barriers. Those are those really general, threats to agriculture. So these were the main takeaways, and I just copied this from, we had a mediator who was kind of synthesizing what we heard that day. So I think folks wanted to enhance storytelling, messaging, and education related to agriculture, bring funding sources to the region and help people access them. So one thing I think of with that is maybe funding sources for slaughter facilities. How do we access those federal dollars potentially? Bolster local purchasing of food and ag products. So one thing I was talking about was, say, with food banks, the ability to pay farmers for local food with that instead of just asking, can you donate this? I think those types of programs where you're able to get local food into folks, dinner tables. And then folks really wanted to come together as a community to build innovation and creativity. So there was a lot of messages about how do we all work together to promote each other. And maybe that's just knowing about someone else is producing pork here, or they're doing great cabbage over there, or whatever it is, to be able to promote each other within the community. So, but once this is synthesized, I'll be happy to share it with you guys so that you can think of, how can we promote, what are these identified weaknesses, and then how do we work to get over them. There were folks from La Plata County who then, I think, the regulations there are obviously very different than Montezuma County, so some of that land use planning code was a concern for them, but probably not as much for Montezuma County. So, but yes, Shaq, I'd be happy to try to work for some sort of a fact sheet on that SB 87. There is going to be education through the Department of Ag and CSU, so posters that then employees could post, and I know there's going to be proposed legislation for education. So, to your point, that a lot of people are probably family members, so they're probably exempt, but hopefully we could just get that education out of who is exempt and then who isn't, so they know, to what they need to do, just so they don't get in trouble. I don't want anybody to just not have any idea this is going on and,
Sure.
Kind of get dinged. So, but yeah, with that, I guess, as Greg kind of mentioned, continuing with the Drought Advisor program, and all of those webinars are posted on the CSU website for anybody who's interested in watching those. I know I attended, just thinking of drought, the DWCD meetings, so I'll continue. They're going to have another meeting in April, just seeing what those water allocations are going to be this year. The last meeting, they didn't have an exact number yet, and so they're hoping to have more information at the beginning of April. So that is just a little bit of what I'm up to. But if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to
All right.
discuss further.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Have a great day.
When you get that welding class, let me know.
Okay.
There's a couple people,
Yeah,
Yeah, I can add you to the list.
okay. Put my wife's name on there too.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Unfinished business, I don't see Dustin in here. Shaq, did we
So
have
they're still
anything?
comparing prices, so that will be unfinished
Next week.
business next week, as well as the MOU that we just added to
Okay.
unfinished business for next week.
All right, well then we'll go to our county attorney report.
Biggest thing to report, last Friday, we did have a hearing in our land use violation case for the property south of town. The judge did enter a default judgment in the amount of $5,800, and so that amount, what it really calculates down to, there's a $1,000 fine up front for the land use violation, and then $100 per day for every day that the property continues to be out of violation. Since the default order initially entered, it had been, I believe, 48 days, and so $4,800 there plus the $1,000 up front. The judge also ordered that that property be brought into compliance with the land use code within 30 days. And so where we're at this point, a $100 fine will continue to accumulate for each day that that property's out of compliance. That can be entered as a tax lien against the property. And so we'll go ahead and do that as we continue to progress through and the property remains out of compliance. And then after the 30 days, if that property is not brought into compliance, at that point, we could file a motion for the landowner to be held in contempt, and then contempt of court, and then a hearing would be held. And obviously, if the landowner had the ability to bring that property into compliance, which I assume that he does, then he could be looking at a jail sanction. And so that's where we're at in this case. I think it just speaks to the stiffness of the penalties in these cases. Money can add up really fast if a property's out of compliance and it's not brought into compliance. And so certainly it's very advisable for folks to bring their properties into compliance and do it promptly so you don't have these fines building up and a potential lien against your property. So that's the biggest thing to report out of our office. Other than that, I did finish up the brief for the Court of Appeals last week for our Road 41 case. That has been forwarded to the insurance company's attorney. He's looking through that right now, and so we'll move forward from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
James is covering a meeting for us right now, so he will not be in here for a report. Shaq, Administrator's report.
Yeah, so I have a couple things real quick for the commissioners, and then once you get about halfway into your report, I'll probably come up with something else. But first, we had our SWORD meeting last Thursday for the opioid response district, and we're beginning the process of working on the two-year plan. I think it's going to, I think the initial two-year plan, which can be updated later, is going to be pretty simple. We're waiting to see what the results of the feasibility study are going to be. So it's going to be a pretty simple plan to put together. And then we're trying to onboard advisory members and get them all approved. So there hasn't been a whole lot that happened with that yet. The second thing is going through records. It came to my attention yesterday that during Commissioner Stevenson's absence, we somehow either neglected to or misplaced the signed November payables. And so we just need to take care of that in case it wasn't. Of course, Kim's out of town and we can't find it, so it just is what it is. If you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them. I would recommend that since Commissioner Copenhaver obviously wasn't here for November, that the motion be made by Commissioner Lindsay and seconded by Chairman Candelaria to move this forward.
Yeah, I would so move we go ahead and reauthorize the November payables in 2021, right?
Correct.
And I'll second it. So it's been moved and seconded to resubmit the November 2021 payables in the amount of $3,365,145.89. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then yesterday, apparently, we didn't have very good audio on our YouTube presentation. So I wanted to get this out there again, just to make sure that the public is completely aware of what's going on. There was an article ran in the Durango Herald saying La Plata County and Montezuma counties receive over $11 million in federal earmarks. And I know that there's talk about a sales tax and how far we have declining revenues and increasing expenditures. I want to set the record straight that this is a pretty misleading headline, that the only agency within Montezuma County to receive any of that is a separate entity, the Mountain Ute Tribe. If you read through the article, Montezuma County is not receiving any funds from this, and I don't want the sentiment to be in the public that, you know, we're getting half of $11 million, why are we asking for more? So I just wanted to bring that to the public's attention. And for now, that'll conclude my report.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioners report.
I don't have much to report. I mean, some of the folks here answered some of my questions that were asked of me, and very few phone calls, and I had 2 emails. So basically, we were in work session yesterday, and that's it.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Copeland for.
This last week, I attended a meeting with the National Conservation Area Work Group that's been studying the NCA below the McPhee Dam. That process has been going on for a long time. Montezuma County has basically been disengaged for that for a while. We are going to re-engage in that process and at least get a seat at the table. If this thing goes through and there's a plan made, we want to be at least part of that planning process. So feeling of the commissioners here that we need to be engaged in it. So I attended that meeting along with Ian, also was present during that meeting we had the other day. I also had a call from some of Senator Hickenlooper's aides about the process for the next farm bill this next year, and they're getting feedback as to some of the concerns and stuff that's out here. I basically told them that, you know, there's not much farm and ranch involvement in the farm bill in this part of the country, because most of the people out here are forage crop growers and that, and basically the farm bill doesn't concern much about that. So we're pretty much not involved in that, other than in the drought. Whenever there's drought aid and that sort of stuff, that's the only part of the farm bill. Everybody thinks that the farm bill takes care of all the farmers, and there's a lot of them that takes care of very few actually farmers in the country. So there's a very minimal amount of them that actually are involved in the farm bill. It's deceiving because of the amount of money that's in that farm bill as to the involvement. And I also voiced concern about the fact that all of their process has to do with all this technology, and there's a lot of farmers out here that are just left out because they will not go through that process, and they're not computer literate where they can be involved in this thing and keep up with it. And I voiced the concern that they're leaving a lot of people behind. I think that's pretty much everything.
Okay, very good. Wednesday, my DOT meeting got canceled and rescheduled to tomorrow, so I was unable to go to the DOT meeting. Thursday, again, I was unable to attend the NSA meeting, but Commissioner Copenhagen took care of it. I did meet with the Extension office out at the fairgrounds, looking over the new livestock wash specifically for the beef because of the additional entries that they have in that program. So they're looking anywhere between 40 to 60, and the wash rack that they have out there right now competing with the sheep and the hogs or pigs, however. It's too small. So we looked at that, and we'll come up with a plan so that we can keep that water contained and not running off into the area so that it doesn't disrupt them after they clean them. I did go to the Veterans corned beef and cabbage event Thursday night. It was a lot of food there. It was actually pretty good. Sat down. Gosh, I probably could have eaten in 10 minutes, but talked for an hour and a half, which is what always happens. So it was a good, fun event. And then, obviously, yesterday we had our workshop, and a gentleman came in, and he asked for a proclamation, or lack of a better term, I think that's what it was, for a bike to work, but I think we should focus more on health. And in that, it outlines, walking, biking, one wheel, whatever it is. But, through COVID, I think the bigger thing that we need to express to everybody is take good care of yourself. Eat right, sleep right. Try to exercise at least 20 to 30 minutes a day if you can. And just really focus on good health, and I know that's going to be part of our conversation that we have with the health department next, I think it's next week.
It'll be the first Tuesday, and Board of Health is
April.
first Tuesday of the quarter, so that'll be April.
So no matter if we put this proclamation together in this regards, I think the key is that take good care of yourself, and there's a lot of aspects of it. Health insurance is one thing, but health care starts with you and what you put into your body. So just a reminder for that. We continue our budget discussions and what we're doing with that, and that is the end of my report. So, gentlemen, we are at the end of our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the March 22nd, 2022 meeting.